It's been a long time since the last album review. In fact, the last one we did was on August 26th, 2022, when I broke down Mos Def's classic debut album, Black on Both Sides. And that said, thanks to some more time on my hands, it's finally time to drop the album review I've been sitting on since episode 15. Yes, it's been that long. You might have not even been around or even knew about Hip to the Games when I had episode 15. Alright, so that shows you just how long ago it was that I've been sitting on this album review specifically. So I figured, if I'm gonna come back with an album review, I gotta come back strong. So I figured today we will dive into the Wu-Tang Clan's breakthrough classic debut album, Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. Get ready to learn all about the album that helped 9 intelligent, karate flick watching, dope rhyme spitting MCs from New York put Staten Island on the map and influence hip hop forever. You see me representing today, I had to come through. As always, we're going to enjoy the bars and punchlines, but what I hope you continue to get from these song breakdowns, from these album reviews, is that dirty or clean, there's always a story. And the beautiful thing about hip hop is that there is a lot more to it than head banging and dope punchlines, right? Like, we're all here for impact, and it's important that we make it positive. And, this group has been able to reach everybody from everywhere with their stories and their messages. So without further ado, are you ready to enter the Wu-Tang? Welcome to Hip to the Games, the podcast for you, the basketball junkie and the hip hop head. I'm your host, Desmond, and I too have had hoop dreams and enjoy the beautiful genre of hip hop and its history. Together, we will enjoy some of the greatest albums, songs, artists, players, moments, teams, and so much more, while even mixing the two on occasion, all in my hope that you remember why you love both or either of these to begin with. You'll soon understand that Hip to the Games is more than just a podcast. It's a lifestyle. And if you were looking for a platform that combines both basketball and hip hop, you've come to the right place. Okay, so before we get into this album, I gotta give my shout outs, of course. I gotta get those out the way real quick. The first one always goes to the creative director, Jesus Christ, for another H2DG episode, as it's always a blessing to get in front of this microphone, and it's always my goal to hopefully represent him well with what he's given me and putting me to do. And the second one always goes to the home team, the 19 Media Group. Be sure to follow the Twitter at 19M Group, follow the Instagram 19 Media Group, YouTube 19 Media Group. We've been rolling on YouTube for some months now to really just tap in with all the shows that we got over here, as there's plenty of content around sports, music, culture for you to enjoy. And I'm sure you can find a teammate of mine to support, whether it's through likes, comments, social media, merch, listens, reviews, the whole nine. I know I can speak for them when I say it's sincerely appreciated, and all of it is seen and felt on my end specifically. And as we get into today's episode, though, I got to give my disclaimer for album reviews specifically. So, I know it's been a minute. So, whether or not this is your first Hip to the Games album review, I just do want to remind you or let you know for the first time, you gotta understand that I keep it clean over here. So yes, we're gonna nerd about bars, punchlines, themes, messages, concepts, but I do keep it clean. So you will hear me censor curse words, try my best to avoid sexual innuendos, vulgarity, and even reword those lines, right? Just really cut out anything that ain't clean, but you better believe that I still keep it hip hop, and you will walk away learning something new, sharing a laugh, and or just simply being reminded why you love hip hop in the first place. Okay, you better ask somebody. we get down on H2DG. I also want to keep in mind, we did kind of change the format over the last few album reviews. So, no longer do I break down every single verse of every single song. That can get very time consuming, especially on an album like this, where there's so many different verses from different people, being this is a super group in the Wu-Tang Clan. So only the songs that are included in my top 3 that I always post on social media, those are going to be the songs that I really get into, but everything else is kind of just highlights and reviews and thoughts, as you know, you would listen to the album and follow the lyrics. But again, like I said, that doesn't just mean we glide over those songs, right? Like I just try my best to really kind of keep it concise for you as a listener, but at the same time, get into the detail that Hip to the Games is known for. All right, so we are certainly in for another great review today. I'm excited to get back on the saddle with the album review. But with all that out the way, let's get into a little bit of background of Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. All right, now this one is funny because at first I was like, man, how in the world am I going to do an album review for a group with 9 dudes in it? And as you can see, that's probably the reasoning behind my procrastination and things of that nature, right? But obviously, you know, knowing the Wu-Tang Clan, not every song includes a verse from every member, right? And even when there are, say, 7 verses on a song, they're short verses. They try to keep them between like 8 to 10 bars, just because it's so much content, right? However, I do anticipate this being one of the longer album reviews. Hopefully I can kind of keep it around an hour and 30, as they normally are, at least at the longest. But at the same time, you know, the Wu is incredible, and every member brings something special to each song. So I definitely want to get into that detail. So I'm trying to also keep my, you know, just let's rock with it. Let's rock with it. Don't even have a time in mind. Just rock with it. And, you know, one big reason why I think the Wu-Tang Clan is so special is because, yes, they are a hip hop supergroup. But even more, it's more to it than that. And this is what I tell people all the time. They are a group full of 10 MCs. Again, 9 at the time this album dropped, that have shown that they can be just as dope solo, right? All with their own unique personalities and styles. It's hard to blend that, but the Wu-Tang Clan somehow found a way. So yes, you have the RZA, GZA, ODB, Method Man, Inspector Deck, Raekwon, Ghostface Killah, You God, Master Killer, and Capadonna, who actually wasn't able to be in the group for this album. But, you know, that is the Wu-Tang Clan. And within that group, you know, is RZA, right? Not just the producer and really the orchestrator of this whole thing, but he's a rapper himself, aka the Abbott, aka Bobby Digital, aka Prince Rakeem, right? Then you move to the GZA, aka the Genius, who's widely known for Liquid Swords, ODB, right? Aka Asan Unique, aka the Rick James of hip hop, known for the return of the 36 Chambers, the dirty version. You got Method Man, aka the Tecalian Stallion, known for Tecal and countless features and hooks. You know, one of the best and smoothest flowers in hip hop. You got Inspector Deck, aka Rebel INS, known for his complex and skillful rhymes. Raekwon the Chef, known for Only Built for Cuban Links, widely regarded as a classic album as well. Ghostface Killah, aka Tony Starks, you know, he's known for Iron Man and Supreme Clientele. So, you know, just to name some, this is what we're dealing with here. This is what the Wu-Tang Clan had that made them so unique. You don't just have an all-star team. You have an all-star team on steroids. And, you know, you might be saying, well, you know, Des, what about the Native Tongues, right? What about other hip-hop collectives / groups? You know, of course, with the Native Tongues, you had De La Soul, Queen Latifah, Tribe Called Quest, a part of that group, you know, kind of taking the baton from Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation. You know, they made positive, fun, eye-opening records. You know, even ODB said, you know, they were first seen by critics as a wannabe Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, right? But the Wu-Tang Clan was just different. You know, they were more grimy, they were rugged, they were authentic. And not to say that they couldn't be positive, right? Not to say that the Native Tongues or Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five weren't authentic. I'm not saying that at all. But the Clan made it a point to show their reality while never conforming to what was becoming mainstream. You know, ain't no singing, ain't no dancing, no glitz, no glamour. It was just like, this is us. This is us, who we are. Like, and if you don't like it, well, build a bridge, because this is who we are, you know, full of lyrics, storytelling, authenticity. And, you know, like GZA has said before, it was a bunch of brothers from the same projects, all on one project, right, on Enter the Wu-Tang, trying to escape the projects. Right. And the Wu-Tang Clan is more than just a dope name. You know, again, GZA said they took similar themes seen in kung fu movies of brotherhood, honor, discipline, respect, and added that to their projects, even individually. Right. And into the stories that shaped their lifestyles. And you know, Additionally, they were big on the metaphor that the tongue is a sword. So literally, other than the inspiration from the Kung Fu sword style, the Wu in Wu-Tang is derived from the wind sound a sword makes when it's being swung or striked or whatever term you want to use, right? So Wu-Tang, right? Which further alludes to their popular idea and really their slogan, protect your neck. So in a nutshell, know that these are sharp-minded brothers who understand their platform and knowledge and want their stories to not just be heard, but understood. Enter the Wu-Tang. All right, so with all of that, and I still think I could say so much more, but, again, keeping it brief, trying to keep some forward momentum, let's officially get into the album review with track number 1, Bring the Ruckus. Now, mind you, if you couldn't tell by this title, this is a song, especially back then, that was pretty much guaranteed to shut the club down. This song definitely got people riled up, and Wu members have said that, and I'm sure people who were actually alive at that time and outside will tell you so too. That it just got people riled up. But more importantly, it is the first, at least on this album, it is the first official introduction of the Wu-Tang Clan. It's the very first song you hear. So Bring the Ruckus is not necessarily a direct translation to Let's Fight. While that certainly is a theme, I think, and I won't act like there are themes surrounding life back then in Staten Island for the Wu. But remember what I said earlier about GZA explaining how the tongue is a sword, right? So that is a very key theme for not just the album, but for all of the Wu-Tang Clan's work. And combine this with the sample from the movie Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang as the intro for the song. This is the Wu essentially kicking down the door of hip hop and saying, watch this. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet. And so we get verses from Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, Inspector Deck, and GZA and with RZA on the hook. So of course, who better to start this song than Ghostface with some of the best opening lines to a song on the entire album. Ghostface, catch the blast of a hype verse. My Glock burst, leaving a hearse. I did worse. I come rough, tough like an elephant tusk. Your head rush, fly like Egyptian musk. Violent, I know. Graphic, I know. But this is not just your regular fighting. Wink, wink. This is just not your ordinary hip-hop group. This is not your ordinary rhyme style, right? This is the Wu-Tang sword style. It's certainly going to be gritty, but understand that this song resonated with a lot of dudes, likely, again, because of that rough, gritty energy it brought. And that energy was definitely released in clubs, as I said earlier. But big shout out to Ghostface because he certainly set the tone for Wu's entrance, right? He knew he had to bring it, and that's exactly what he made sure to do. And he nods to the popular oil, Egyptian musk, which is often used for aromatherapy purposes as it helps relax, release, calm down. But at the end of the day, it was one of the flyest, exotic, alluring oils that one could use. So Ghost plays on that here. And then he goes on to spit some more hardcore, explosive rhymes, especially at the end of his verse. PLO style, hazardous, cause I wreck this dangerous. I blow sparks like Waco, Texas. So not only does Ghost continue to describe how he brings the ruckus, both lyrically and physically, but he goes as far as referencing PLO, which was the Palestine Liberation Organization. And keyword here as it relates to the Wu-Tang Clan is liberation. The PLO was founded in 1964, and the U.S. actually considered them a terrorist organization until 1991. They were known to cause a lot of damage with attacks in and around Israel, as they wanted to replace Israel with a sole Palestinian state. And that was until 1993 when Israel and Palestine finally reached a peace agreement. But of course, as we know today, given the current situation between Israel and Palestine, that peace agreement didn't mean jack, as their conflict has just been ongoing. Now the Wu, much like the Kung Fu movies, made a connection to the PLO because they were fighting for freedom, as inconsiderate as it was for Israel and pretty much a lot of people involved, as you can imagine. But I do want to make it clear that while the Wu-Tang Clan wasn't pro-terrorism, they did not endorse terrorism whatsoever. They did find some relation to the PLO because, according to Method Man, they felt they were fighting for freedom coming up in the environments they did. So it was that self-identification of saying, hey, Palestine is fighting for freedom. We want to fight like them because this is how we feel trapped in, in our separate hoods and across Staten Island. Like, I want to be free, right? So they found some identity in that. And, you know, I want to take this moment to draw attention to the importance of referencing historic events in hip hop. Because notice how a line from 1993 can still line up with what's going on in 2024. You know, because I can sit up here and act like it's all good just because the Wu-Tang Clan said something like this, right? Or I can give you the honest truth how hip hop lyrics, in their boldness, sometimes finds itself edging the boundary between what's acceptable and what's not. You know, even for me, especially understanding what Palestine is experiencing right now, I had to ask myself, like, yo, Des, do you want to go this deep on your show? You know, and my thing has always been, I'm going to give you all sides of hip hop. I can't just hype up the good and ignore the controversy, right? So while it took a minute of research and understanding, I had to realize at the end of the day, it circled back to how these dudes felt coming up in Staten Island, right? The same way they were chasing peace and freedom from their hood is exactly what countless families are experiencing right now in Palestine. So definitely some home hitting and global lines from Ghostface Killah to end his verse. All right. You're always going to learn something with the Wu-Tang Clan. That is definitely for sure. And furthermore, Raekwon is up next and uses his verse to detail the pressure of his environment while making comparisons to his impact as an MC. And we see this in lines like this. I watch my back like I'm locked down. Hardcore hitting sound. Watch me act bugged and tear it down. And another situation where he describes a more dangerous scenario before finishing it off like, and that's one in the chamber, Wu-Tang banger, 36 styles of danger, which of course is a double entendre as Ray, he's talking about a gun, but he also references the Wu-Tang Clan's budding explosion in the music industry, right? And then in classic Inspector Deck fashion, he grabs the mic and uses his verse to flex his lyrical impact with lines like this. I'm hectic, I wreck it with the quickness, set it on the microphone and competition get blown. Right. And I picked these bars in particular because if you look at how it's written down, you see lots of commas representing pauses. I know I didn't do it all the way justice just to recite it, but, you know, he has a lot of pauses, or even on some hip to the games verbiage, right? Hezzies, as I call them sometimes, right? With the basketball analogy, that are used throughout his verse. So, you know, here you can see how Deck says hectic and immediately follows up with wreck it, right? I'm hectic. I wreck it with the quickness. Right? Multi-syllable rhymes are very much a skill of Inspector Deck's, which is why we often get those more complex, entertaining verses from him. Dare I say it, you know, his rhythm on a track kind of reminds me of a guy like Jordan Poole. You know, you never know if you'll get the in and out hezzy cross or the cross hezzy pull up. Like, he's just always trying to throw his defenders off, which only opens the amount of buckets he can get, right, with that versatility. And, you know, sometimes you hear people say nowadays that they miss when rappers simply rapped about and bragged about their skills on the mic, right? And few did that more than Inspect the Deck. You know, again, that's another thing about this album that you can appreciate. Like, sometimes it isn't always the deep stuff. Like, these guys are just trying to show why they are not just up next in the industry, but they're here to stay, you know? And then lastly, GZA has the final verse on Bring the Ruckus as he seems to call all challengers to step up and dare go toe-to-toe with him and his clan with lines like this. Yo, I'm more rugged than slave man boots. New recruits, I'm messing up MC troops. I break loose and trample ish while I stomp a mud hole in that tail cause I'm straight out the swamp. Alright, and see, this is dope and hilarious at the same time, because he expresses just how he would physically defeat his foes, really nailing home that kung fu and what we see more nowadays too. You could even stretch it as far as anime, right? You know, kind of that fighting style aspect, right? And yet it's dope because of the multis of boots, recruits, troops, loose, right? And like the irony of him implying he single-handedly messes up MC troops while literally being a part of an MC troop himself, right? But that's the moral of the story. RZA included the audio from Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang that said, you know, do you think your Wu-Tang sword can defeat me? You know, which is so fitting as the Wu-Tang Clan opens their album striking first, daring any haters, any competition to step up as their incoming ruckus is too much to handle. And now that the Wu set the tone with Bring the Ruckus, they move on to Shame on a Never Ignorant Getting Goals Accomplished, if you follow that acronym, you know, as I do often on here. where we can presume that they have defeated their opponents, and now I got the image of them like defeating their opponents and just standing over them like, yeah, like I wish you would get up. That to me is how we step into track 2, Shame on a Never Ignorant, Getting Goals Accomplished. All right. So for this shorter song, RZA introduces ODB and Method Man into the album while keeping Raekwon a part of the fold. And what's dope here is that ODB and Ray briefly team up on the first verse before each having their own after Method Man's verse. It's a real nice way to switch up the format and showcase the chemistry and the talent that the Wu-Tang Clan has. For example, as ODB and Raekwon start the song channeling, I guess you could say their inner like drill sergeant, right? Or Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut, ODB immediately brings the energy mentioning, ODB, live and uncut, which funny enough are 2 words, live and uncut, 2 words that could describe his energy in general, right? He was the wild one of the group. While he delivers an enforcing verse mentioning how his style is unbreakable, shatterproof, so much so that he later threatens to knock the teeth out of his competitor, you can't help but believe that ODB provided some leftovers from Bring the Ruckus, as he didn't have a verse on that song. But then it's Method Man's turn to spit, where his incomparable flow is showcased in just a 10-bar sequence, which I'll actually recite all of because it's just flawless performance and elite penmanship. Okay, I'll do my best. Yo RZA, yo Razor, hit me with the major, the damage, my clan understand it, be flavor, gunning, humming, coming at ya. First I'm gonna get ya, once I got ya, I got ya. You could never capture the Method Man's stature, for rhyme and for rapture, got suckers resigning, now master, my style never. I put the stinking buck in the wild, kid, I'm terror, razor sharp, I sever, the head from the shoulders, I'm better than my competitor, you mean competitor, whatever, let's get together. Bruh. The multis and flow pattern in the beginning. Then this man is clever enough to say, first I'm gonna get ya, once I got ya, I got ya, which essentially uses 3 different tenses of the word get, right? I'm gonna get ya, then when I got ya, I'ma got ya, right? Which alone is a double entendre because it fulfills the way he uses different forms of the word, right? But then it obviously points to the method, pun intended, in which Method Man is going to subdue his foe, right? I gotcha with like gun, right? So man, right? It's just incredible what he did here. And then notice, remember what I said in the Eminem The Way I Am breakdown about how MCs sometimes divide or stretch their lines to stay in their pocket? Method Man does that here with for rhyme and for rapture, got suckers resign and now master. Then there's like the split. He extends it to the next line. My style never, right? But as a sentence, it would say, for rhyme and for rapture, got suckers resign and now master. My style never, right? And then he ends with the literal inspiration I mentioned in the background behind the Wu-Tang Clan saying, I sever the head from the shoulders. I'm better than my competitor, right? And I thought that was an awesome tie-in and reminder for listeners. And then, even in the way he mispronounces competitor on purpose to set up that last time, right? You mean competitor, whatever. Let's get together. Like, this is what people mean when they say Method Man is a legend. Like, to this day, he still spits like this, and he's really an all-time talent, and his level of skill should really be studied. Because what he did with this verse, I love it so much. And then Raekwon is up to bat, and he serves an 8-bar platter of rhymes which expresses how advanced he is compared to his competition, most notably as he raps this. Brothers approaching half step, but ain't heard half of it yet. Dope wordplay on using the word half. And I bet you're not a vet, so when you see me on the reel, forming like Voltron, remember I got deep like a Navy SEAL. So a nice play on vet or veteran, right, before circling back at the end with Navy SEAL, right? And then lastly, that was just something I wanted to highlight from Raekwon, like I said, bringing that energy. But lastly, as the song ends with ODB's second verse, he has some unique raps compared to his teammates, all while expressing really the same idea that he's not to be messed with on that microphone. And some of these raps include: dirty, I keep poop stains in my drawers so I can get fizzy funky for you. Murder, taste the flame of the Wu-Tang. Rah, here comes the tiger verse Crane. I'll be wild with my style. Punk, You play me, chump, you get jumped. Wu is coming through at a theater near you and get funk like a shoe. So ODB's personality and humor never failed to shine through in his raps, and that's really what made him such a star and wild card for the Wu-Tang Clan, because even when he got wild, he still kept the song's theme in his own way, further showcasing that impressive blend of the Wu-Tang Brotherhood. So, that's some highlights from the second track, Shame on a Never Ignorant, getting goals accomplished. Like I said, just really looking over their opponent, kicking them while they down, just really being enforcing and introducing some of the other Wu-Tang members. And then moving on to track number 3 now. To me, here comes the anthem song for the Wu-Tang Clan, and that's Clan in the Front. Now, this song actually features a beat change, as nearly the first minute and a half features a roll call from RZA as he shouts out the names of not just primary Wu-Tang members, but Wu-Tang affiliates or Wu All-Stars or Killer Bees, whatever you know them by, right? They got a lot of names in the Wu-Tang Clan. But as you can imagine, essentially RZA is calling for all members of the clan to step up to center stage, right? Clan in the front. But interestingly enough, the song itself gives GZA some solo shine with 2 verses that allow just one Wu-Tang soldier to represent the entire clan well, and what would prove to be an excellent choice as GZA showcases elite wordplay while showing love to his brothers. And here are a few lines that stood out to me. First, he opens the first verse like this. The Wu is coming through, the outcome is critical. Messing with my style is sorta like a miracle. On 34th Street, in the square of Harold, I gamed Ella, the girl caught a fits like Gerald. Dean Ferraro, who's full of sorrow, 'cause the girl didn't win, but the sun will still come out tomorrow. Alright, these bars right here are an example of just how genius the GZA is. He compares how someone messing with his style would be as rare as the miracle on 34th Street, the old school Christmas film that features Santa coming to New York, right? But what got me instantly was the wordplay on jazz legend Ella Fitzgerald, and I'm sure you caught it too, as he broke up her name to tell his story and then extended the Gerald right into a mention of former Vice President hopeful Geraldine Ferraro, who ended up not getting elected. So if you glue all that together, it would be, I gamed Ella, the girl caught a fits like Geraldine Ferraro, right? But of course, when he raps it, it's like, I gamed Ella, the girl caught a fits like Geraldine Ferraro, right? And then the last bars, and after that greatness, the last bars of the second verse stood out to me as he used baseball to illustrate his chemistry with RZA and mentioned just how superior the Wu-Tang Clan is. I'm on the mound, G, and it's a no-hitter. And my DJ, the catcher, he's my man. In a way, he's the one who devised the plan. He throws the signs, I hook up the beats with clout. I throw the rhymes to the mic and I strike 'em out. So it really doesn't matter on how you intrigue. You can't hang with those in the major leagues. So I thought those were dope lines from the genius, but another element, pretty self-explanatory. There's some multis in there, but a lot of nice baseball references, right? But I just really wanted to highlight the hook as well in this song because it features an embedded Wu chant, right? Wu, woo, 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 which further promotes the idea of the Wu-Tang stepping to the front, right? Representing. But the chorus in its entirety is also one of the best on the album, just in the way it is catchy and it gets the crowd involved. Clan in the front, let your feet stomp. Brothers on the left, brag-ish to death. Hoods on the right, wild for the night. Punks in the back, come on and attract to what? So that's kind of commanding, right? Again, it's kind of like that drill sergeant, calling all your troops to the forefront, right? Like clan in the front, let your feet stomp, right? But that's kind of instruction for the crowd to respond, right? Like, so if you play this at a party, you would satisfy both audiences, like the one who's just there for the raps and the one who's like, it could kind of be a party record in some ways, So I thought that was a dope feature throughout the song that kind of amplifies the familial aspect of the Wu-Tang Clan and even showing how, fans can be a part of that. I think that's really dope and important for artists to do. When you can include your fans in the song, like especially for like live performances, like that'll take your impact to a whole nother level because it's not like you're just talking at your fans. You're really truly getting them involved. So I thought that was dope. With track number 3 done, We get towards the climax of the album as the next 3 songs all found a spot in my top 3, as the middle of the album features some of the Wu's biggest hits, starting with track number 4, which is Wu-Tang's 7th Chamber. This song claimed a sole spot at number 3 in my top 3 off the album. I love the beat. I'm a more simple, less is more kind of guy. So the kind of easy piano loop that RZA made is one that I just really rock with. And it's also because, all 7 of the more forefront Wu-Tang members have a verse on this song. So, I think those are all the reasons why I like it. And additionally, the song opens up with one of the many memorable skits the Wu-Tang Clan has, with Raekwon asking Method Man for his killer tape, an old horror movie from back in the day, to which Method Man replies that he doesn't have it, although Raekwon let him borrow it, to which, they go back and forth about the matter. And it's really just like a funny way to open the song, but, it also kind of reflects that, the way the Wu used to like get together and watch movies, further letting listeners inside their laid back bond and brotherhood that just went deeper than them being a music group. I think it's just nice to hear like, oh, like these dudes really be kicking it. Like, like it's not just for the music. Like, it's easy sometimes to get in groups and there's beefs and whatnot, but like the Wu-Tang Clan didn't have that really. Like, they were genuinely brothers. So that's always dope to see. And we get a nice inside look at that. And eventually the song goes on to feature 7 verses from each of the forefront members, which represents 7 chambers, right? Which is a callback to them, there being 36 chambers in total, right? Enter the Wu-Tang 36 chambers. And of course, there's 9 Wu members, 4 chambers of the heart equals not, 9 times 4 equals 36 chambers, right? In total. So, some nice, clever mathematics from the Wu-Tang Clan. And according to Inspector Deck, they originally wanted to fulfill all 36 chambers in different ways, right? Inspector Deck later had a song on his 1999 album Uncontrolled Substance called Ninth Chamber, while GZA, he had 4th Chamber on his classic album Liquid Swords. Since each chamber or song has different meanings, the Wu found a way to kind of bring the overall concept to life, further exemplifying how their music was deeper than rap itself. And Raekwon gets the first verse on this song after starting the first few lines, comparing his connection to music with his connection with a woman. He raps the rest of his verse with that concept in mind, but at the same time, gradually making it more obvious he's talking about rap. Killer B's attack, flipping what? Murder one, fat tracks, aight? I kick it like a Nike flight. Word life, I get you all robbed on spite. So Ray references the Killer Bees and how they make fire tracks, then compares his style to Nike Flight kicks or sneakers, a double entendre actually, as he plays with the idea of shoes being kicks, and then kick as in kick a rhyme, right? I kick it like a Nike Flight. Then continuing. Check the method from bedrock, cause I rock your head to bed, just like rocking what? Twin Glocks. Shake the ground while my beats just break you down. Raw sound, going to war right now. So yo, bombing, we usually take all ninjas' garments, save your breath before I vomit. So notice the dope wordplay on bedrock, right? Check the method from bedrock, cause I rock your head to bed, right? As he says the word, but in the next line, he flips it and says, rock your head to bed, right? He starts to describe his impact as an MC. Shake the ground, beats break you down, raw sound, right? That's Wu-Tang in a nutshell. Which speaking of, in that next line, he says, yo, bombing, we usually take all ninjas' garments, as he creates an acronym for Wu-Tang. We usually take all ninjas' garments. That's genius stuff. Dope stuff from the chef as he ends his verse. Not something you would catch quickly, because I sure didn't, but definitely a nice Easter egg inside his verse. And then here comes Method Man with more forceful lyrics that definitely express his confidence level as an MC. I be that insane brother from the psycho ward. I'm on the trigger. Plus I got the Wu-Tang sword. So how you figure that you could even mess with mine? Hey yo, RZA, hit me with that beat one time and pull a foul. Ninja save the beef for the cow. I'm milking this one. This is my show to cow. The heck you wanna do for this mic piece, dude? I'm like a sniper, hyper off the ginseng root. PLO style, Buddha monks with the owls. Now who is the man? Meth to cow. Alright, so to start, Method Man expresses how crazy he is on the mic, like literally. comparing himself to someone from the psychiatric ward, right? The fact that he's insane and got not one but two weapons on him makes him dangerous, which of course lyrically references the Wu-Tang sword, right? Or his tongue, right? Keep that in mind as you listen to this album and follow this review. He dares his competitors to try him and even has a dope line where he says, "Save the beef for the cow," as if to reiterate that you shouldn't mess with him, right? But obviously the play on beef, cow, you know. And then he then follows that up with, "I'm milking this," right? So taking that cow line from earlier, he says, "I'm milking this. This is my show to cow." Which to me, further details just how Method Man is not giving up the mic nor backing down to anyone. And he also is given a nod there to his eventual solo debut album, to Cal. His competitive spirit continues, though, as he challenges his opponent, then comparing himself to a sniper, hyper off the ginseng root, which is a stimulant found in energy drinks. So lining up to his opening line, right, Method Man continues to establish the fact that he's crazy with the mic. And anyone can get it. Sometimes, again, when you listen to the Wu-Tang, sometimes it's that simple. It's that simple of details in this thing. And this actually makes sense at the end as he asks, who's the man, before claiming it's indeed him, right? Meth to Cal. And the image I kept seeing while reading and listening to this song and following the lyrics is Method Man on like a 1-verse-10 matchup with the Wu-Tang sword, and just he leaves the situation untouched. Like he just walks into a room, he's outmatched, but it doesn't matter. Boom, everybody gone, and he can walk out like nothing happened. That's how I kind of see this verse. He handled his business. And speaking of handling business, Inspector Deck snatches the mic and feeds off Method Man's energy for verse 3. "I leave the mic in body bags. My rap style has the force to leave you lost like the tribe of Shabazz. Murderous material made by a madman. It's the mic wrecker, Inspector, the bad man. From the badlands of the killer, rap fanatic, representing with the skill that's iller. Dare to compare, get pierced just like your ear. The shooby-doo wop pop, strictly hardware. Armed and geared cause I just broke out the prison. Charged by the system for murdering the rhythm. Now lo and behold, another deadly episode. Bound to catch another charge when I explode." Alright? A lot of this is straight braggadocio, right? Again, if you notice, I'm not getting too deep on the lyrics because a lot of it is braggadocio. Again, sure, there might be some multis, there might be some dope rhyme schemes here and there, but a lot of it is braggadocio. I leave the mic in body bags. My style leaves you lost. I wreck mics. My skills iller, right? Sicker than yours. I kill the beat so often I get charged, only to proverbially break out and then let the cycle continue. But outside of that, though, in the middle, he does say, from the badlands of the killer, which is a nod to where he grew up, Park Hill, which is, it was often called Killer Hill due to its dangerous environment. So he references that there. But for the most part, everybody's getting in their braggadocio bag for Seventh Chamber. And Ghostface Killer continues the trend with one of the more memorable opening lines as he compares himself ripping up this track to, let's say, an efficient robber. "Slamming a hype type verse till your head burst. I ramshack dead in the track, and that's that. Rap assassin, fast and quick to blast and hard rock. I ran up in spots like Fort Knox. I'm hot, top notch, ghost thinks with logic. Flashbacks how I attacked your whole project. I'm raw, I'm rugged and raw. I repeat, if I die, my seed will be ill like me. Approaching me, yo, out of respect, chops to neck. I get vexed like crashing up a fat Lex, so clear the way, make way, yo, open the cage, peace, I'm out, jetting like a runaway slave." Man, Ghost, when he's in his pocket, it gets crazy. I love the display of multis from Ghost, verse, burst, track, that's, that, assassin, fast, blast, right, kind of like the middle of those words. Then later on, he mentions how when he gets approached unexpectedly, it gets him vexed, right? Or irritated, you could say, as if he were to crash a nice Lexus, right? Before essentially calling for his inner beast to be unleashed before he's done with that last line, which that line is a dope way to end his verse by saying like, peace, I'm out, right? Like on to the next person, but also continuing the imagery of his fable, right? By essentially saying he's on the run, right? So that was, you could say like, it's kind of like a double entendre verse from Ghostface Killah, if you think about it, you know, with parallels to rap and like the robbing scenario he's kind of telling there. But then Ghost passes it to the point guard in RZA, who in the midst of his intense verse has this thing he does where he likes to reference body parts. That's one thing about RZA that I just never really understood. Like, I get it. If you're just a knowledgeable human being, that stuff's just going to come up. But, you know, it's just always interesting the way RZA does it, as you'll see right here. You getting stripped from your garments, boy. Run your jewels. All the meth, or weed, got me open like fallopian tubes. See what I mean? I bring death to a snake when he least expect. Ain't a thing change, boy. Protect your neck. Ruler zigzag, zig-a-la, jam is fatal. Quick to stick my Wu-Tang sword right through your navel. Again. Suspenseful force being brought through my utensil, the pencil. I bring strong winds up against you. Havoc, then run through your county like the maverick. Caps through the tablets, I gots to make the fabrics. Now, as dope as that is, I really want to highlight the middle of that verse. Ruler zigzag, zig-a-la, jam is fatal. Quick to stick my Wu-Tang sword right through your navel. Suspenseful force being brought through my utensil, the pencil. I bring strong winds up against you. This is poetry. The imagery, right? First off, ruler zigzag, zig-a-la is the acronym for RZA, right? And zigzag zig means knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to the 5% nation, right? Which, at least at the time of this album, much of the Wu-Tang members were, you know, a part of and you know, believed in their ideologies. So he's saying his song is deadly, right? Which goes right into the next line as he says he'll stick his Wu-Tang sword through the navel, or in other words, describing how his lyrics cut deep. And how with that same sword, right, his utensil or pencil, right, writing raps, allows him to write lyrics that make his tongue sharp. And as he proverbially swings it, causing high winds, you know, which, keep in mind, represents the Wu in Wu-Tang, you know, he killed this verse. You know, don't let them say RZA was just a producer, right, or like the point guard behind everything, because his pen was nice too. When he got in his bag, his pen was nice. And, you know, continuing on now, as most of them have done up to this point, the next person is ODB, and he takes that idea of swinging the Wu-Tang sword right into his verse. A warrior, killer, slicing it like a samurai, the ODB from the bar, right? And then after skipping a quite nasty rhyme from ODB, he goes on to express how he brings a unique blend of grit and funk as an MC. Ninjas be getting on my nerves. Rhymes they be kicking make me want to kick 'em to the curb. Boy got funky fresh like the old specialist. A carrier, messenger, barrier. This experience is for the whole experience. Let it be applied, unique, drop that science. Okay, so ODB always referred to his style as funky, right? And, you know, with that in mind, he's also never afraid to compare it to human waste. As I said, you know, ODB, he be getting nasty sometimes. But again, he's living up to the dirty in his name, right? But that said, you know, witnessing his style is truly an experience. And as a result, he ushers in the final verse from GZA, who reflects on his path to lyrical dominance before ending the song in a way that only the genius can do. My clan is thick like plaster. Bust ya, slash ya, slit a ninja back like a Dutch master killer. Style jumped off and killer. I was the thriller in the Ali Frazier Manila. I came down with fat tracks that combine and interlock like getting smashed by a cinder block. Pow, now it's all over. Sucker seeing pink hearts, yellow moons, orange stars, and green clovers. So, after hyping up the Wu, right, and indirectly referencing the sword with the way he says, you know, he'll slit a dude's back, he has a dope bar referencing the Thriller in Manila, right? The iconic fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, saying that the way his rhymes impacted Park Hill was as if he brought that same thrill that Ali and Frazier did to the boxing ring. And then he compares his dope songs to the way a cinder block can smash objects, which is also a clever bar because hit songs are also known as smash records, right? So GZA essentially says that not only were they fat, but they were smash hits to him, you know? And then, using an onomatopoeia to build on that smash, he ends his verse detailing the aftermath of his impact, nodding to how in cartoons, you would see stars above characters' heads when they got knocked unconscious. But Jizza takes it a step further and says his opponents are seeing the exact marshmallows found in Lucky Charms cereal, right? Pink hearts, yellow moons, orange stars, green clovers. A genius through and through, man. One of the dopest endings to a verse for sure. Which brings us to the end of Seventh Chamber. A song that to me, it allows each member of the Wu-Tang Clan to flex their unique styles or swords, if you will, before going into a more heartfelt and beloved track by fans for the fifth song on the album. But before we get into that, if you do like what you're hearing thus far and want to know how you can show some support to Hip to the Games, here's how you can do that. As a fan of Hip to the Games, not only should you show your love for the podcast, but you gotta express your love for basketball and hip hop. With a wide variety of clothing and accessories, there is always a way to show how much the game of basketball and the game of rap means to you. Let everybody know what it means to be hip to the games by clicking the link in the episode's description to cop some merch and represent the H2DG lifestyle. Alright, welcome back to Hip to the Games and the album review for Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. As we get into track number 5, Can It Be All So Simple? And this song is tied for second on my top 3, because man, this joint right here, what a beautifully crafted song from RZA, man. Like sampling the I Got The by, if I'm pronouncing this right, Labby Fire, or Labby Fire, and then The Way We Were, Try to Remember by Gladys Knight and the Pips. RZA created a laid-back yet thought-provoking instrumental that made Raekwon and Ghostface reminisce on the good old days. And this is the only instance on the album where Ray and Ghost share a song together, as they went on to establish themselves as a dynamic duo, most notably on Raekwon's solo classic Only Built for Cuban Links. So this song serves as a nice prelude before that album comes out a couple years later. And after an intro that features Ray and RZA reminiscing on their favorite years of their childhood, and Gladys Knight's lyrics, as she says, everybody's talking about the good old days, right? Well, let's talk about the good old days. Raekwon starts off his verse reminiscing on his upbringing. Started off on the island, aka Shaolin, brothers wildin', gunshots thrown, the phone dialing. Back in the days now, I'm 8 now, making a tape now, Ray gotta get a plate now. So Raekwon references Staten Island as Shaolin, right, which what the Wu-Tang Clan did very often, detailing the environment he came up in as an 8-year-old before quickly fast forwarding to the present where he yearns to eat or make money off his music. And then he continues recalling a moment in his life when he knew he had to change his lifestyle. Ignorant and mad young, wanted to be the one till I got blow, 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 felt one. Yeah, my pops was a fiend since 16, shooting that's that stuff in his bloodstream. That's the life of a grimy, real life crimey, and brothers know that habit's behind me. So we hear Raekwon reflect on his younger years when he was ignorant and what we can all presume as at a time where he just kind of wanted the juice, right? The respect on the streets, till he was shot. And again, reference, the onomatopoeias of blow, blow. He was shot and grew up seeing his father addicted to heroin, right? That's that stuff in his bloodstream. Raekwon reiterates how real that life is for him, how it's in the past for him now. But of course, it didn't get that way fast, as he takes the next several lines of this song to detail the life he chose before rap started taking off for him, as he found himself going to different towns to buy weed, before getting to the end of his verse, where he seems to so desperate to attempt a robbery that he actually shoots the parents of one of his guys that had a nice loft up north, ignoring his friend's attempts to get him to not do it. And oddly enough, it's a weird turn of events in a song about the good old days. It kind of it threw me off when I was listening to it, like the first time, and even to this day, I'm kind of it's kind of abrupt, and maybe though it implies that for Ray, there wasn't much good in the good old days. Maybe that's just his story. There wasn't much good in the good old days. And I've even seen theories of how, with the reflective nature of this instrumental, it challenges one, especially where Raekwon is from, to examine their moral code, right? it's interesting to think about for sure, like that, the ending of his verse. But thankfully, Ghostface Killer uses his verse to reflect on his dreams with music while lamenting over the reality of the people who won't be in a position to do what he's doing, before deciding to learn from those around him and honor them by choosing better for his own life. Kicking the fly cliches, doing duets with Ray and A happens to make my day. Though I'm tired of busting off shots, having to rock knots, running up in spots and making stuff hot, I'd rather flip shows instead of those, hanging on my living room wall my first joint and it went gold. So Ghost details how making music brings him joy, right? Although before his success, it was hard balancing the joy of pursuing his dream, but still feeling the need to hustle and rob to make ends meet. And he even says he would much rather perform his music and get paid that way. And he's dreaming of a gold plaque on his wall, right? Like, these are the things he just wants to do. And right now I think Ghost is a lot like me, has his head in the clouds, is dreaming and just really sees it clear as day. This continues before he's reminded of his reality. I want a lamp, I want to be in the shade, plus the spotlight, getting some loving all night. I want to have me a fat yacht and enough land to go and plant my own cess crops. So again, right, Ghostface Killer is dreaming of a better environment, more happiness, more peace, the stereotypical highs that come with success, right? Even to the point where he has enough land to grow his own weed. And then moving on. But for now, it's just a big dream, because I find myself in a place where I'm last seen. My thoughts must be relaxed, be able to maintain, because times has changed and life is strange. The glorious days is gone and everybody's doing bad. Yo, mad lives is up for grabs. Brothers passing away, I gotta make wakes, receiving all types of calls from upstate. So struggling with the stagnancy of his situation, Ghost is dealing with the reality that his dreams aren't as close as he hopes. And to make it worse, it's getting strange for him as he's surrounded by people with similar circumstances and is dealing with the grief of those close to him passing away, right? And despite struggling, though, with the pressure surrounding him, it's this same pressure that inspires him to keep going and make his dreams a reality. Yo, I can't cope with the pressure, settling for lesser. The God left lessons on my dresser, so I can bloom and blossom, find a new way, continue to make more hits with Ray and A. Sunshine plays a major part in the daytime. And so we get the callback to how he started, right? Continue to make more hits with Ray and A, and he's choosing to continue making hits with them again. Ray, as in Raekwon, A, who is likely RZA, but as I mentioned in the beginning, he was often called the Abbot, so you can assume that Ray and A is Raekwon and RZA. Ghost decides that he doesn't want to settle, and he's determined to make a better life for himself, which in hindsight is dope to see that his dreams, indeed came to fruition, right? Definitely an inspirational ending, and it certainly hits home for me, right? This song, again, why it cracked second in my top 3, because as I find myself in a very similar situation, wanting better than average for myself and wanting to see my dreams come to reality. So it's always encouraging to hear a guy like Ghost, say like he stuck it out and they came true. So I start to believe that the same can happen for me and that the same can happen for you as well, right? And like I said, I think you see why it cracked number 2 on my top 3. Ghostface Killer definitely has a knack to drop a heartfelt verse, which is one reason why I think so many fans admire him to this day, because as rugged as he can be very heartfelt with verses like these. So that's really dope. And after this song, there's a transition to an intermission where an interview with Method Man, Raekwon, and Ghostface Killer is played as Method Man explains the members of the Wu, while all 3 members eventually explain to the interviewer that, they don't want just quick success. They want sustainable success and impact to the point where it creates generational wealth for their children, right? Which again is nice to know, as that's exactly what Wu-Tang, what the Wu-Tang Clan ended up doing and establishing for themselves, with not just classic music, but dope fashion and other business moves. So a good way for listeners to understand what the Wu-Tang Clan is about and what their mission is, right? That they're just, again, especially at a time where like it was considered like ignorant to be a rapper, right? Where it's like, oh, well, rappers just don't have no talent, or, all they want to do is make that rap music and make money, but it's like you see what they're really about and what their mindsets are. So I feel like that's what the intermission did. It kind of established that for listeners and let you in, again, behind the curtain a little bit to what they're about. And then after that, we officially get into track number 6, the other song tied for second in my top 3, The Mystery of Chessboxin. And finally, with this song, listeners hear verses from U-God and Master Killa for the first time, who actually have the first and last verses, respectively, on this song, along with appearances from Inspector Deck, Raekwon, ODB, and Ghostface Killah, with Method Man on the hook. And with its title inspired by the 1979 film Mystery of Chessboxin, it's another high-energy song with the perfect instrumental for a kung fu-inspired group. Specifically, RZA was inspired by the 1978 film Five Deadly Venoms, which featured a toad, a lizard, a scorpion, a snake, and a centipede. And, a couple of these animals are referenced in samples throughout the song and even lyrics in the song. So there's some dope tie-ins here. And like I said, it's really like the epitome of like that kung fu style the Wu-Tang Clan, always went for. And this starts in the intro, which is taken from the movie, as you hear, a game of chess is like a sword fight. You must think first before you move. Toad style is immensely strong and immune to nearly any weapon. When it's properly used, it's almost invincible, right? And it definitely gets that hype going with this song. And again, Wu-Tang always strives for excellence. So, of course, they picked the Toad style, which is invincible, right? So they definitely get the hype going. And U-God matched the energy perfectly to start the song. Raw, I'ma give it to you with no trivia. Raw like cocaine straight from Bolivia. My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation like the Emancipation Proclamation. Right, so U-God emphasizes how dope he is. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Raw, I'ma give it to you with no trivia, right? And which is really good word choice there for the rhymes. And that he has the potential to impact the world through his music, similar to how the Emancipation Proclamation shocked the world, which of course I believe is more so referring to the shock it caused by freeing the slaves, but yet not really freeing the slaves, right? That caused a lot of shock within itself, as opposed to it just simply being a historic moment, right? But then he goes on to diss weak MCs who use outdated slang and mentions how he is an unstoppable force on the mic, but then ends with a very controversial line that stems from 5% ideologies. He essentially reiterates the 5% idea that white people are devils created by a mad scientist, and they went to a place called Caucasus. And now I actually went to research this, and a genius user by the name of Familamsky _, he broke it down perfectly in the comments and not only shut down U-God's bogus line, but mentioned that he was actually born in the area and that there were actually black people rocking traditional clothing from Caucasus as early as the 19th century. And furthermore, the region in Eastern Europe and Western Asia has a lot more in common with the Middle East as opposed to Europeans. So see, this is why we study lyrics, right? When you look at the lyrics and you see or you listen to the song and you know how U-God ended his verse, this is why we study lyrics, right? Because again, something may sound dope, but like the meaning of it is actually kind of like twisted, right? So you got to look, you got to research context, things of that nature. You get a history lesson, right? And remember that, again, just because a verse sounds dope doesn't mean everything in it is. So, good energy from U-God overall, but definitely he could have did without that last line, hence why I didn't even bother to repeat it or anything like that. So after that, it's Inspector Deck's turn, who fights with, in my opinion, Master Killa for the throne of my personal favorite verse on the song. Because Inspector Deck, he goes crazy as well. Well, I'm Messiah. I set the microphone on fire. Rap styles vary and carry like Mariah. I gotta stop right there. Even to this day, but especially when I first heard that, I thought that line was the smoothest line. Rap styles vary and carry like Mariah. Not just C-A-R-R-Y, but C-A-R-E-Y as in Mariah Carey. Like, oh my gosh. Like, the multis help, but anytime you can use a celebrity's name as a homophone, it's likely gonna hit. INS is crazy. He's crazy. it just explains, how dope he is. But of course, this verse he's saying, right, like, I'm versatile, and then he proceeds to reference his upbringing to mention how it's made him who he is, especially as an MC, given his nickname Rebel INS. I come from the Shaolin slum, and the owl I'm from is coming through with enough ninjas and enough guns. So if you want to come sweating, stressing, contesting, you'll catch a sharp sword to the midsection. Don't talk the talk if you can't walk the walk. Phony suckers get outlined in chalk. I'm mad vexed. It's what the projects made me. Rebel to the grain, there's no way to barricade me. So Deck once again references the Wu-Tang sword, right? Very similar to what RZA said in Seventh Chamber. But for the most part, he got that dog in him and refuses to be stopped, right? If I'm saying it in today's language, that's essentially what he's saying, reminding opposing MCs that he is a nightmare waiting to happen, before ending his verse expressing similar sentiments. And then we got Raekwon the Chef back in action for verse 3, seemingly shouting out the guys who are still living the lifestyle he's on the cusp of leaving, while making it known he's just getting started in his pursuit for success in music. Rough like Timberland wear, yeah, me and the clan and yo the Land Cruisers out there. Peace to all the crooks, all the ninjas with bad looks, bald heads, braids, blow this hook. This pretty much entails everything I just said, while Ray shouts out Timberland for the signature style we've come to see out of New York, kind of taking pride in that look, before continuing. We pack chrome techs, nickel-plated Macs, black axe, drug dealing styles with fat stacks. I only been a good brother for a minute though, cause I got to get my props and win it, yo. So again, this is Raekwon acknowledging the lifestyle he lived before while focusing on what's next, expressing his hunger to keep going on this journey with music. And then in the next few lines, he builds on this by mentioning how it bothers him to see dudes make it big and then chill. As Ray, he's somebody that wants it all and more. I got beef with commercial sound dudes with gold teeth, lamping in a Lexus, eating beef, right? Pretty specific there. As Ray points a picture of what success can give, right? Gold teeth, a Lexus, right? The best, high-end food, right? And then after this, he ends his verse essentially saying, don't get it twisted though, just because I'm changing don't mean I'm soft, right? And after this, we hear Method Man's hook for the first time. My peoples, are you with me? Where you at? In the front, in the back, killer bees on attack. My peoples, are you with me? Where you at? Smoking meth, hitting cats on the block with the gat. So similar to, I think, Jizza's hook and Clan in the front, this one from Method Man is perfect for a party as it represents the rugged, mighty Wu-Tang Clan to the fullest, while creating crowd engagement, right? Same thing. And then the ever so energetic ODB picks it up for verse 4. Here I go. Deep type flow. Jack Costo could never get this low. I'm cherry bomb in this. Just warming up a little bit, right? So ODB starts his verse with a slow warm-up while comparing his depth as an MC to French deep-sea diver Jacques Cousteau. Then in the next few lines, ODB orchestrates a stretch of bars that include stretching words for syllability and multis. All right, this is a very versatile verse from ODB. Rapping in is what's happening. Keep the pockets stacking in, hands clapping in at the party when I move my body. Gotta get up and be somebody. Y'all know I can't help it. Grab the microphone, put the strength to the bone. Dun, dun, dun. Enter the Wu-Tang zone. Sure enough, when I rock that stuff, huff, puff. I'm gonna catch your bluff, tough, rough, kicking rhymes like Jim Kelly or Alex Haley. I'm a Beatle. Bailey Rhymes, coming raw style, hardcore. Ninjas be coming to the hip hop store. All right, so a big chunk there, but first, we hear ODB give a few words on, he gives a few words an extra suffix, just to match the rhythm of the word happening, right? So he says, rapping in is what's happening. Keep the pockets stacking in, hands clapping in. But it's even like, that even just the way he says that, it's like it represents like an ongoing thing, right? He's gonna keep rapping it, right? Or wow, look at me. He's gonna keep rapping, he's gonna keep getting his money, and he's gonna make people keep clapping, right? So he's not just rapping, he's rapping in. He's not settling with his money, he's stacking in the paper, right? He's keeping the fans' hands clapping in. It's ongoing momentum. I think that's dope. That's really dope. But then, we notice ODB doing a combination of rapping and singing. as I tried my best to not do, but kind of failed. Further showing his versatility and his talents on the mic. And then to add to his fun personality, he even uses the dun 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 like sound that we always hear to kind of describe that impending doom of the Wu-Tang Clan, what they can do with their swords, right? Or their tongues, right? And then he references martial artist Jim Kelly as he describes the way he kicks rhymes, right? Pretty self-explanatory. Really just describing his style and expressing his versatility at the same time. And continuing with the rest of the verse, he declares the standard for what it takes to hang with the Wu-Tang lyrically before shouting out some of his members. Coming to buy grocery from me, pretending to be a hip-hop MC. The law, in order to enter the Wu-Tang, you must bring the ODB type slang. Represent the Jizza, Abbott, RZA, Shaquan, inspect the deck. Dirty getting low with his flow. Introducing the ghost face killer. No one could get iller, And that's a fact, right? No one can get iller than the Wu-Tang Clan. ODB brings the entertainment while still spitting some dope rhymes using some different styles also. Certainly living up to the unique in A-Song Unique, right? And as he stated, it's time for Ghostface Killer's verse, who lives up to his character counterpart in the movie The Mystery of Chessboxin, taking on an aggressive approach with his sights on a particular rap opponent, you could say. Speaking of the devil, psych. No, it's the God, get your facts right. Mega Trife, and yo, I killed you in a past life. On the mic, while you was kicking that fast-ish, you reneged, tried again, and got blasted. Again, RZA made it clear that Ghostface had to have the hardest verse on the song. So Ghost wastes no time stepping up to the mic, cites on who we can presume is his lyrical opposition, and goes absolutely in. And looking at those first two lines, Ghost takes inspiration from his, at the time, 5% ideologies and says, speaking of the devil, right, because ODB just introduced him, right, introducing the Ghostface Killer, so he says, speaking of the devil, but then he says psych, right? Because he would rather be called God, as 5%ers believe they are gods, and, they call each other that all the time. And again, you hear that with the Wu-Tang Clan in their early years, right? Peace, God, peace, God. That's a 5%er thing. So again, while I don't agree with that, but I see the way that's a dope opening line from Ghost, right? Even though we have different beliefs, that's a dope opening line for somebody with those beliefs. And then he calls out his opponent for failing to live up to their words on the mic before continuing with more enforcing rhymes. Half-master type style, mad rough task. When I struck, I had on Tim's and a black mask. Remember that? I know you don't remember Jack. That night, yo, I was hitting like a spiked bat. And then you thought I was bugged out and crazy. Strapped for nonsense after me became lazy. Yo, nobody budged when I shot slugs. Never shot thugs, I'm running with thugs that flood mugs. So grab your 8+1, start flipping and tripping. Ninjas is jetting, I'm looking off, son. Wu-Tang, 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 right? Definitely some hostility coming from Ghostface Killer. He calls out his competition for a half-mastered style and ultimately using several lines to reiterate how they got no chance against him. Just mean stuff from Ghost. Mean stuff. I won't even try to get deep into it. It's all right there, man. It's all right there. I'ma just let that be. And lastly, after a Wu-Tang chant, as I just did, we get into Master Killer's verse, who, remember I said, just might have the best verse on the song in my opinion. And fun fact, according to him, this was actually the first rap he ever wrote. He asked Jizza what he thought of it, not revealing that it was from him. And Jizza advised him to make a few tweaks, and the rest is history. So let's get into it as he poses an ironic question right off the bat. Homicide's illegal and death is the penalty. What justifies the homicide when he dies in his own iniquity? Master Killer points out how the death penalty is ironic because the justice system is essentially committing homicide themselves, which would result in the same punishment they are giving. Right? Interesting thought. Why would he start this verse that way? I'm not sure, but it definitely leaves you thinking. He continues his verse referencing a martial arts style as he talks about his skills on the mic. It's the master of the mantis rapture coming at ya. We have an APB on an MC killer. Looks like the work of a master. Evidence indicates that his stature, merciless like a terrorist, hard to capture. The flow changes like a chameleon, plays like a friend, and stabs you like a dagger. So a few things here. Number one, I always loved when he said we have an APB, right, or an all points bulletin, what cops use to gather information on suspects. But I always loved when he said we have an APB on an MC killer looks like the work of a master, right? Because he is talking about himself, right? He split up his name, by saying, MC killer looks like the work of a master, right? Master killer. Clever technique there for the storytelling aspect as well. But then he goes on to describe how lethal he is as an MC. Merciless, hard to capture, adaptive flow, right? Cuts deep like a dagger, Wu-Tang sword, and then the description even continues as he ends his verse. This technique attacks the immune system, disguised like a lie, paralyzing the victim. You scream as it enters your bloodstream, erupts your brain from the pain these thoughts contain, moving on a ninja with the speed of a centipede and injure any other contender. So basically, like many of his fellow Wu members, Master Killer has a style that does damage to all microphones. His impact is strong, his words carry weight, and he uses graphic imagery to illustrate just how impactful his lyrics are. In my opinion, these are some of the most tap into the character bars on the entire album. I have moments listening to this album where I'm like, are y'all still even talking about rap at this point? Like they get aggressive, man. But then I remember just how heavily influenced they were by Kung Fu movies and understand the imagery they're trying to create with their own rhymes, which is really intelligent when you think about it. For them to be so tapped in with Kung Fu flicks that they can write their own rhymes with similar detail and intensity and vocabulary, it's pretty dope to understand, and is yet another example of how unique their concepts were to hip-hop. And again, not only is Master Killer's verse hard, but his delivery is flawless too. Just good energy and enunciation to go along with the lyrics. A great way to end an intense song. And speaking of intensity, that brings us to track number 7. Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to F With. And, while this one didn't crack my top 3, what I love about it is that it perfectly expresses the hunger and the excitement the group had to make it. The beat is still rugged but more up-tempo, and I think really represents that feeling, that rush that I imagine one feels when they are on the cusp of realizing their dream. And even off the title, right? That rush of confidence you get when the hard work finally pays off. Like, okay, I'm here. I'm about to show them why I'm here to stay. And that to me is the message and energy behind this song. And what makes it even more dope, RZA got the first verse. RZA cooked this beat up and said, hold on, y'all, let me kick it off. And he came through with the energy. There's no place to hide once I step inside the room. Dr. Doom, prepare for the boom. Bam, oh, man, I slam, jam, now scream like Tarzan. I be tossing, enforcing, my style is awesome. I'm causing more family feud than Richard Dawson. And the survey said, you're dead. Fatal flying guillotine chops off your head. The multis, the delivery, the flow pattern, it even switched up a little bit, right? The onomatopoeia is just everything in just that short stretch of bars. And what I appreciate about RZA's raps is that he takes that Kung Fu inspiration seriously. Like, obviously, that's why they call him the Abbot. He was really the one who fostered all of this. The ideas, the production, he is the Wu-Tang Clan's point guard. So when he brings this energy, and especially that last line about the guillotines, right? Again, that comes from the Kung Fu movies, right? He is truly carrying the idea behind the tongue being a sword. And he brings the energy of a Kung Fu fighter. And obviously these are more graphic descriptions, but when you make the connections to the ways the entire Wu-Tang Clan, usually spits those bars, after previously flexing their qualities as MCs, you realize just how the Kung Fu stuff is simply their niche right behind the concept as artists. And RZA even ends his verse saying, me fear no one. Oh no, here come the Wu-Tang Shogun, killer to my eardrum, right? That's just a dope way to say the Wu is so dope I can't help but blast their music at the highest level, right? It's going to be so fire, it's going to mess up my eardrum. Again, that Kung Fu inspiration is a huge reason why the Wu-Tang were so successful, because nobody was really doing that, and they took it to a point where nobody else can really, because they'd essentially be biting off the Wu-Tang Clan. So it's really dope stuff. Furthermore, Inspector Deck gets verse 2, where most of it includes this dope stretch of his braggadocio. Put the needle to the groove, I gets rude, and I'm forced to tear it up. My style carries like a pickup truck. Cross the clear blue yonder, sea to shine and see. I slam tracks like quarterback sacks from LT. So Deck takes you through the process, right? The needle hits the groove, or in other words, the beat starts playing, right? And he's feeling pumped. He's ready. He knows he can ride any beat. And in the end, he destroys the beat much like NFL great Lawrence Taylor did to many quarterbacks over the course of his career. And then it goes into the hook, which is another collective effort as the Clan simply shouts, "If you want beef, then bring the ruckus. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to F with. Straight from the slums that's busted, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to F with," right? And again, it reminds me of how oftentimes in kung fu movies or even parodies or sitcoms, right, you always see the opponent motion with their hand to like come at me, right? And I feel like that's what the Wu-Tang Clan is doing at this point in the album. Like, you know, they even call back to bring the ruckus, right? Because they're ready for what's next. If you want beef, then bring the ruckus. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to with, you know? And then before an outro from RZA, the last verse comes from Method Man, who I gotta reiterate is like that scene in Avengers Endgame when you got the whole gang trying to beat Thanos' army, and suddenly Captain Marvel comes all the way from Xenon or wherever she came from to change the momentum, as if the Avengers needed another body, let alone someone who was darn near indestructible on their team. You know, the fact that the Wu can let Method Man come at the end of a track and just go crazy with his own style is just such a cheat code in the same way. The meth will come out tomorrow. Styles, conditions, bizarre, bizarro, flow, with more afro than Rollo. Coming to a fork in the road, which way to go? Just follow. Meth is the legend, suckers is Sleepy Hollow, right? Flow crazy on this, flow crazy. Dope Sleepy Hollow bar too, right? Meth is the legend, suckers is Sleepy Hollow, obviously playing on the legend of Sleepy Hollow. You know, he's showing that, you know, he ain't a rapper to mess with, even without saying it directly, right? Just dope stuff across the board on this one. Like I said, just pointing out a lot of the rhymes that I loved to hear listening to the album. And, you know, looking back, I'm surprised this song didn't crack my top 3 just off the energy alone. But it's definitely close. It's definitely close. But speaking of which, the next track took its rightful place at number 1 in my top 3 and is the Wu-Tang Clan's most popular song. Cash rules everything around me. All right. Now, you may remember that while I still wasn't doing video episodes at the time, given the long absence of my album reviews, I decided to do a full song breakdown on C.R.E.A.M. So I strongly encourage you to listen to all 44 minutes of that because it's such an iconic song and Wu-Tang's most referenced and recognizable song. It was nice to take 44 minutes to really dive into just this one song alone and give it its proper shine and detail, as opposed to me, you know, spending about what I would think is 10 minutes per song for an album review in full. So with that in mind, I figured for this song, I would cut some key parts up from that episode and, you know, take some commentary and include that here. So I can still kind of keep it concise for this episode while still encouraging you to catch the full C.R.E.A.M episode in case you missed it. So I'm going to place that right here, and then we'll get into track 9 of Enter the Wu-Tang. We need to look at where this idea of C.R.E.A.M comes from, because despite Method Man literally saying it on the hook, right, he tells you what it means, this song was so smooth and dope that its meaning went over some people's heads. There was a guy named Ruckus who came up with this acronym of C.R.E.A.M. So they thought it was like crazy dope. But Method Man's gift of crafting hooks took the song and really this phrase to a whole nother global level. So shout out to Ruckus for creating one of the most respected words and I think phrases and, you know, fostering one of the most iconic ideas in hip hop. Like, obviously, if you're a hip hop fan, you know how much rappers and even just everyday people, how often we say C.R.E.A.M or, you know, cash rules everything around me. Like, we always refer to this because of this song. So that's dope to have some background on how that came about. But lastly, we have to touch on RZA's genius production. You know, the mastermind behind it all, like I said. You know, and fun fact, this lovely instrumental that's crafted here was stuck deep in his vault at the time of the recording. So when RZA revisited the idea with the beat we now know, he asked them to condense it, and eventually they formed what we now hear on C.R.E.A.M. But sample-wise, RZA primarily uses As Long As I've Got You by the Charmels to give that reflective yet soulful, poetic canvas for Raekwon and Deck to share their respective stories, as well as Hey Love by the Delphonics. Alright, so after a short intro that features a little dialogue from Raekwon and Inspector Deck, Raekwon immediately starts the song off with the origin story of his journey. I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no jive. Had second hands. Moms bounced on old man. So then we moved to Shaolin Land. Alright, so first off, this is actually a great way for Ray to start his verse. It's a real nice display of show and tell, because he doesn't just say, I grew up where there was crime and every day was hard and it was a battle of survival. Me and my mom left the house and moved elsewhere. Like, he could have easily told you about it, right? But he showed you, I grew up on the crime side, right? The New York Times side, right? I grew up in the area where, my hood was always in the paper because there was always something going on. Staying alive was no jive. And then we moved to Shaolin Land, right? Like, he paints the picture for you with the multi-rhyme of crime side and time side in the first bar. Obviously, like I said, he refers to the New York Times here to essentially say, I'm from the place you always see in the newspaper, because something dangerous is always happening, making local headlines. It's that rough out here. And then he sort of continues this pattern the next two lines saying, staying alive was no jive, right? Rather than saying it was no joke, he says jive just so he can fit that with alive. Smart word choice there. And then he continues detailing his upbringing. A young youth, rocking the gold tooth, low goose, only way I begin the G off was drug loot. And let's start it like this, son, rolling with this one and that one, pulling out gats for fun. But it was just a dream for the teen who was a fiend, started smoking woolies at 16. So the first signpost, if you will, of one of the themes that comes up in C.R.E.A.M reveals itself here. Like many, unfortunately, Raekwon got involved hustling at a young age to make money, right? And I think the key line to take note of here is that second to last one. But it was just a dream for the teen who was a fiend. Because I think the obvious dream for Raekwon was to make it out of his circumstances, right? To make it out of his environment. Yet struggling to see past where he is currently, even going as far as calling himself a fiend. Like, this is something Inspector Deck also touches on in his verse when we get to that. But notice, this song is not just about money. There are even smaller themes like this one. Very often in our lives do we find ourselves stuck in the middle, where we acknowledge that we passionately want our current situations to change, yet the outcome we desire seems to be so far away. And when you throw in the fact that there's no manual to this, right? There's no guarantee that my vision will come to pass. That is exactly where our faith is tested and the self-doubt and questions start to come in. So what do? Well, the smart thing sounds like to choose boldness and faith anyway. And fortunately, we'll hear eventually that Raekwon chose that a bit later in his verse. My life got no better. Same dang low sweater. Times is rough and tough like leather. Figured out I went the wrong route, so I got with a sick tight click and went all out. See? So somewhere along the way, Raekwon found his gift to rhyme. And fortunately that he connects with RZA, which gradually led to forming the entire Wu-Tang Clan. And they realized there could be another way out through music. Of course, RZA being the abbot, right? He helped everybody see this. But back to my point earlier, it's nice to know that Raekwon took heed to this and took the positive route, and it led to success that might have even went beyond his dreams. Because notice how even in his struggle, even in hustling, he was just tired of the same thing every day. He knew there had to be better out there for him. And that's unfortunately what gets people stuck. They may not believe there's better out there for them. Yet, at the same time, it can be a bit fueling to see, okay, maybe if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I'm going to find out what that looks like. So Raekwon then ends his verse seemingly nodding to the eventual success of the Wu-Tang Clan and how they're just getting started. Catching keys from cross seas, rolling in MPVs every week, we made 40 G's. Yo, brother, respect mine. Or here go to Tech 9. Bow. Move from the gate now. So we hear the gradual buildup in Raekwon's verse, right? He starts out talking about how he grew up in a rough neighborhood. He picked up some bad habits, started hustling, wanting better for himself, and boom, he crosses paths with some dope MCs and forms a supergroup primed for success. You know, he found his way, and in my eyes, the Lord certainly ordered his steps as far as connecting him with the clan and making songs like these that would connect with other people in similar situations, right? We got to keep that big picture in mind. I know this song is about the money, but like I said, I think Raekwon's verse also features themes of self-belief, faith, and persistence. All right, so then we hear the full iconic hook from Method Man, which, as we all know, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. It's fun, it's smooth, it's catchy. But notice how true it is regarding our lives. Cash rules everything around me. Get the money. Like, this world don't play about its dollar bills. Think about it. Are there some negative sounding lyrics? Sure. But I don't think people sell drugs just because. I don't think people rob others just because. You know, there might be some out there who do, unfortunately. But remember the DMX album review that we did? In Get At Me Dog, he says, rob and I steal, not because I want to, but I have to. Right? He puts it as plain as anyone can. Years after the Wu dropped this song, DMX was essentially saying the same thing. I need money. We need money to move out. We need money to eat. We need money to pay for school. Even on the flip side, like Pac said, we got money for wars but can't feed the poor. Cash rules. It's one of those sad truths of life. And again, on a deeper level, I think that's why the Bible emphasizes wisdom in general, but especially financially, because the love of money is the root of evil. And the less generous we are with it, the more stingy everybody gets with it. You know, that's what comes to my mind personally. And I think you can see why Raekwon and Inspector Deck tell the stories that they do, because at the end you like, dang, you know, cash really does rule everything around me, you know? So just like we heard Raekwon give his life journey, we'll start to hear Inspector Deck do the same. I peep at the shape of the streets and stay awake to the ways of the world because it is deep. It's figurative language, right? Because you know what? When you literally look at a street, it's obviously straight. Yet clearly, as Deck looks at his streets, his environment is far from straight. It's in bad shape. See why Deck has one of the best pens in hip hop? Very dope and sharp bar there. Very hard hitting, heartfelt line there. He continues. A man with a dream with plans to make cream, which failed. I went to jail at the age of 15. A young buck selling drugs and such who never had much. Trying to get a clutch at what I could not. The court played me short, now I face incarceration. Pacing, going upstate's my destination. Handcuffed in the back of the bus, 40 of us. Life as a shorty shouldn't be so rough. So Deck takes us through his journey as a youth, right? Which again, it parallels with Raekwon's as he found himself doing the wrong things as well. In fact, so much so that Deck went to juvie at 15. And just like I was saying earlier, Deck wanted to make money, but unfortunately he adopted the ways of the streets, and doing it that way landed him in jail. And again, it just lines up with everything I said earlier as he says, I never had much, trying to get a clutch of what I could not. That's all it was, man. That's all it was. Think about it. He's 15, man. That's all it was. So on that deeper level Deck mentioned earlier, it's like, dang, maybe they want us, even young kids in jail, because cash rules for the prison system too. I got in trouble because cash rules, and now I'm like a subject of cash rules, if that makes sense. It's a cycle. Yeah, that's some deep stuff right there from Deck. Which leads into the next parts of his verse. But as the world turned, I learned life is hell. Living in the world no different from a cell. Every day I escape from Jake's giving chase, selling bass, smoking bones in the staircase. Though I don't know why I chose to smoke cess, I guess that's the time when I'm not depressed. But I'm still depressed, and I ask, what's it worth? Ready to give up, so I seek the old earth. Who explained working hard may help you maintain, to learn to overcome the heartaches and pain. So a larger chunk there, but definitely some things stick out, right? I know you heard me try to emphasize it as I recited those lyrics, because Obviously, he's detailing running from Jakes, right, or cops, which we know from past song and album reviews on here. But we then hear Deck lead into his thought process with the theme of sobriety, right, as he details how he once smoked to escape the stresses of his lifestyle, but realized it was only a temporary escape and that the stress never actually went away. And that's why those last 4 bars are important, because it's a nice turning point in Inspector Deck's story, similar to how Raekwon had one of his own, right? And I think that's the dope part. That's the dope part. You know, maybe my music can be a healthy way to cope and a healthy form of therapy, not just for myself, but others as well. Because my hard work has real purpose. You know, it can be more fulfilling, and in turn, the cream won't drive me. It will simply serve as a bonus because the value goes beyond any dollar amount, right? So an awesome lesson to peep there with Deck's verse. And in fact, Inspector Deck pretty much states this exact idea in the next few lines as he starts with an impressive display of rhymes as he then finishes his verse. We got stick-up kids, corrupt cops, and crack rocks, and stray shots, all on the block that stays hot. Leave it up to me while I be living proof to kick the truth to the young black youth. But shorty's running wild, smoking cess, drinking beer, and ain't trying to hear what I'm kicking in his ear. Neglected for now, but yo, it gots to be accepted. That what? That life is hectic. So it's dope to hear how Inspector Deck found his purpose through his music and by learning from his own mistakes, yet sad to hear how he notices the youth being stubborn towards his guidance. But I think Deck uses those last 2 lines to acknowledge that it's one of those things where even if they reject his guidance, they will only have to learn it for themselves later, similar to how he did in his own life. And I think the ending of Life is Hectic leading into the hook is poetic in itself, because it's like, why is life hectic? Because cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. After today, you'll realize how much is really in this song. You know, it's not just a hustler's anthem. It's kind of like a hustler's anthem, but hustler's sorrow, but it's also like just the everyday human being, you know? It's like, get to the money by any means. But see, like I said, now we know it's much deeper than that. It's kind of more sad. It's shady. It's business, you know? But at the same time, it's like uplifting and purposeful, right? Because we see how Raekwon and Inspector Deck, like that light bulb went off and they was like, okay, like, nah, there's a better way. So while this song may very well have a lot to do with money and chasing riches, I think it's simultaneously a call to go after real riches, right? The Bob Marley kind of riches, right? The inner riches that money can't compare to. Those might be the riches that actually lead to the money riches. Yeah. Let that sink in. All right, and then that brings us to track number 9, which is Method Man. And after a run of some of the Wu's most popular songs, one of their most beloved personalities gets his own track on the album. One quality that's dope about this song is how Method Man combined Michael Jackson's Come Together, which was a remake of the Beatles song, and he combines Hall & Oates' Method of Modern Love and Master Ace's Music Man. He took all the elements from these songs and essentially made Method Man. And you know, just by memory, right? Just to form the hook, and then, you know, all these elements of the song, and just form this song. Really, that's like his own style to the whole album. And, you know, another fun fact about this song is that I love is that Method Man even said he remembered watching the video for this song on TV, eating white rice with ketchup on it, feeling bad as he was starting to believe that rap may not provide in the way that he thought it would. But little did he know that this album, and for him, this song would eventually put a spotlight on the Wu-Tang Clan and himself that wouldn't go away. So that alone is just really inspiring, because, and it, you know, it inspired me to like keep going on my journey, because, you know, Method Man is sitting here, you know, basically eating a struggle meal, right? And his song is on TV, his video is on TV. And he's like, man, maybe this ain't what it's cracked up to be. But then boom, like fast forward, look at who Method Man is now, man. Like, so it's really dope how like even when you make it, quote unquote, you can still feel some of that doubt before it gets better. So I really like that Method Man shared that. But furthermore, Method Man showcases a more zany side of the MC, as the song is filled with references to TV, books, nursery rhymes, even commercials. plus a handful of spelling and onomatopoeia. So a lot of like I said, a lot of unorthodox style from Method Man as he's just flowing, right? He calls himself, he's more of a flower, and there's very few examples of that mastery than this song. And for example, he raps towards the beginning of verse 1. Patty cake, hey, the Method Man. Of course, as opposed to Baker's Man. Don't eat Skippy, Jif, or Peter Pan. Peanut butter, cause I'm not butter, right? And that's essentially him saying he's not soft, right? And then there was even a line a bit later where he references like Tweety Bird seeing Sylvester the Cat from Looney Tunes and compares that to seeing his competition as weak before saying, but I think he best to be aware of the diggy dog ish right here. Yippee yippee yay, yippee yah, yippee yo. Like Dex said, this ain't your average flow. Now, there's a lot here. First off, it's the way Method Man raps the line taken from Tweety Bird, because he raps it exactly how Tweety Bird talks. I won't get into it, but like if you look it up and you follow the lyrics, like the way Method Man literally says it, the way Tweety Bird says it, for one, to do that in a rap just like flawlessly is crazy. But then secondly, he flips the George Clinton Atomic Dog lyrics in his own way to build the idea that he's a dog, different than these other cats, right? Before saying, this ain't your average flow, like, which literally, yes, Method Man has one of the most unique flows in hip hop, but also, not a lot of rappers can make a song with all these references to cartoons and such and make it look good. That's my thing about, Method Man. Maybe outside of ODB, maybe somebody like Greg Nice, more modern, Ludacris, there are a few guys that could do it, but it's such a small group, right? So these are just a few lines from that verse that exemplify how unorthodox yet braggadocious this song is. And in the second verse, there's a bar that goes, now, how many licks does it take for me to hit the Tootsie Roll center of a break? Which obviously references the classic Tootsie Roll Pop commercial. But it's funny because I figured it was kind of a follow-up to some more rhymes centered around intimacy beforehand. Yet when I went to research other possible ideas, there are a few on Genius that are like, oh, he's referencing how long it takes before he hits the sweet spot of his verse. Or, oh, he's referencing the term hit a lick. So he's asking how many licks will it take before he can stop that, get rich, and continue to pursue music, And while all those are fair commentaries, right? Like I always say on here, music is subjective. Like what you're hearing, somebody else may not hear. So, I love looking at those, but I'm not all the way sure if that's it. So, you might have to comment and let me know what you think. But either way, I just want to continue to provide examples of this unique song. But in a nutshell, there are 3 lines from verse 1 that I believe summarizes the song Method Man perfectly. Hitting you from every angle. There's no doubt I am the one and only Method Man, the master of the plan, rapping this like C.R.E.A.M. So behind all the zany rhymes, Method Man's pen is still elite, and this was the perfect song to showcase his flow, ultimately serving as a nice lighthearted break from some of the more heartfelt and grittier songs on the album. But with track number 10, the Wu goes right back away from the fun to encourage their opponents to guard themselves lest they get hit with the Wu-Tang sword. And if you follow what I'm saying, that's track 10. Protect your neck. Alright, so remember, the Wu-Tang Clan seen themselves as lyrical assassins. Big on the metaphor that the tongue is a sword. So throughout the album, you're hearing these samples from kung fu movies, a lot of swords swinging, right? References about chopping heads off. And that's where Protect Your Neck came from. So as I said earlier, you got to look underneath that graphic depiction and understand that every single verse on this song features the words my style or the/my clan, right? Again, the bottom line is that Enter the Wu-Tang is literally a kung fu movie / anime in the form of a hip hop album. If RZA was a filmmaker, they would have been movies. If he was a novelist, he would have been like J.K. Rowling, right? But these guys were musicians, right? They're MCs. So through the medium of hip hop, they found a way to connect with their people, their audience, and even gain new fans through their knowledge of kung fu and the values that come from those movies. They brought the elements they admired in those movies to their own art. And this comes to light in Inspector Deck's verse when he opens saying, I smoke on the mic like smoking Joe Frazier, right? And then even towards the end when he says, deep in the dark with the art to rip the charts apart, right? Because the thing I forgot to mention too, Protect Your Neck was the first single the Wu-Tang Clan dropped. So they knew, despite Bring the Ruckus, right? Despite Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to mess with, Protect Your Neck became their slogan and the thesis for their art and their lifestyles. Obviously in hip hop, the tongue is a sword. It can do damage to microphones and competition, but even spiritually, right? For example, you know how open I am about my faith on here. That message can still apply because the Bible says there's power in the tongue, right? That's why we are to be edifying with our words as opposed to, being negative. That's why it's so important to discern God's voice from the enemy. So yeah, even Christians got to protect their neck too, right? You got to protect your neck from the enemy. The devil got a sword too, right? So for the Wu, the tongue is a sword can mean many different things. And it connects with me, even with different, belief systems, because it reminds me of how powerful words are. Even with different ideals, the main idea of the tongue being a sword resonates in a variety of ways. Again, that's something I appreciate about the Wu-Tang Clan. Hip hop is impactful, man. That's what I'm saying. Set your pride aside and, learn something new, learn something that's different, right? And just, apply it to your own life. That's the beauty of it. That's how you reach people, right? And furthermore, Raekwon gets the second verse this time and opens with more rhymes to put fear in his opponents. The way I make the crowd go wild, sit back, relax, won't smile. Ray got it going on, pal. Call me the rap assassinator. Rhymes rugged and built like Schwarzenegger, right? And then later on, cause I came to shake the frame in half with the thoughts that bomb-ish like math. So if you want to try to flip, flip on the next man. Cause I grabbed the clip and hit you with 16 shots and more I got going to war with the melting pot. All of that describes his impact with rap, right? He makes the crowd go wild. He wants to shake the frame, right? Hits with 16 shots and more if necessary, right? 16 as in a 16 bar verse. See the parallels. It's hip hop, man. It's hip hop. Rhymes rugged and built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like solid as a rock. You know what I mean? This is all about coming in and giving a refreshing way for people to hear hip hop, right? And then boom, it continues with Method Man, right? Where in his verse he says, small change, they putting shame in the game. I take aim and blow that sucker out the frame. And like fame, my style live forever. Suckers crossing over, but they don't know no better, right? Method Man is pointing out whack rappers who are watering down hip hop, who aren't living up to the standards set by its pioneers, even while referencing the classic movie Fame, right? I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly, right? Like, it could be a reach too, but I think Method Man, he uses the next line too to essentially say, despite these artists crossing over to fame through hip hop, they don't know anything about the culture. They aren't doing it for the same reasons the Wu-Tang Clan is, right? And funny enough, that idea definitely applies today, right? With all the artists who use hip hop to grow their fan base, but then they get in these award shows and they're in the rock categories and the pop categories and melodic this, melodic that. Same idea, man. Like the Kung Fu flicks, the Wu, they're going to maintain their honor as they fight. That's essentially, I think, what Method Man was kind of alluding to. Then we get into verse 4 where in there, ODB straight up says, shame on you when you step through to the ODB straight from the Brooklyn Zoo, which low key is actually a callback to shame on a never ignorant getting goals accomplished, And even at the end of his verse, right, he says, bite my style and I'll bite your butt, right? Like everybody is expressing the same ideas centered around their lyrical contributions. Ghostface Killer. For crying out loud, my style is wild, so book me. Not long was how long that this rhyme took me. Ejecting styles from my lethal weapon. My pen that rocks from here to Oregon. Skip a line and you'll hear, if rap was a gun, you wouldn't bust back. Right? These guys love rapping and they make it known throughout this song, man. Like even while pushing the message of protect your neck, they're telling you this is why, because we are this dope, And to me, like this single is only the beginning of what was to come for the Wu-Tang Clan. Because you might be saying even throughout this album review, Des, all this is the same. There's nothing really deep about this, but I think that's kind of the point. Like this is the first single, so go crazy. Go so crazy that it makes people want to listen to the deep stuff that we do eventually drop. This song to me is the definition of a breakthrough single. Like draw attention to the eventual project. right? And then as we highlight RZA's verse, there's kind of a interesting contradiction that I want to address. But first, I'll point out how he has lines like attack the globe with the bucket style, the ruckus, and crazy flamboyant for the rap enjoyment, right, to fit the theme that the members carry. But what I thought was puzzling was how early in the verse he says, flowing like Christ when I speaks the gospel. Yet later on he says, 10 times 10 men committing mad sin, turn the other cheek and I'll break your chin. Now, clearly in the past, I've addressed how much of the Wu, at least, again, in this time, they believed in 5%er ideologies. But if RZA actually believed he was spitting the gospel, he wouldn't even thought of that line he spit after that, right? As the Bible literally promotes the opposite, right? Stray away from sin, turn the other cheek, don't be vengeful, keep the peace, right? So as someone of the faith, I peep that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Again, I say I love hip hop and I represent Jesus. You know, so it'd be foolish of me to bypass those bars. And despite this being a dope single, you know, I got to dock some points off for that. I got to dock some. Come on, this is an album review. It can't all just be sunshine and rainbows. But, you know, again, as we continue, lastly, GZA once again finds himself with the final verse as he takes a slightly different approach and focuses on how labels fumble the talent that they get. Again, another dope message as they seek to climb that, you know, music industry, hip hop ladder in these early stages. The Wu is too slamming for these cold killing labels. Some ain't had hits since I seen Ain't Mabel. Be doing artists in like Kane did Abel. Now their money's getting stuck to the gum under the table. That's what you get when you misuse what I invent. Your empire falls and you lose every cent. And if that ain't the truth, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. We know these labels be tripping, and GZA is so explicit about that. You know, he actually takes a jab at his former label at the time, Cold Chillin', who had Juice Crew legends like Big Daddy Kane, Cool G Rap, and Marley Marl. You know, GZA had difficulties with them, so it didn't work out, and he addresses that in this verse. And then he explains how a lot of labels get greedy and even jealous of the artists and try to, as a result, kill their careers, similar to how Cain did Abel due to jealousy in the Bible. And then GZA later mentions in his verse how it then starts to impact how labels see artists, as they'll pass on ones that are actually dope if they don't believe they'll bring in as much money, right? So the artists, they no longer see them as artists or human beings. They just see them as dollar signs. GZA is talking about all that here. But of course, GZA chose to trust in his dopeness, follow his crew, and go their own route. And we see just how that paid off for him and everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan. You know, and again, it's a lesson to us, right? Don't stay around and try to convince people of the gifts that you know you bring to the table. You know, like they say, build your own table. You know, wise words from the genius to end protect your neck. Again, dope breakthrough single for the Wu-Tang Clan. But after another intense record from the Wu in Protect Your Neck, they go into a much more passionate and heartfelt direction, technically ending the album, with track 11, Tearz. Now, Tearz is nice because it only features RZA, and of course, if we're talking any kind of storytelling, especially heartfelt ones, like I said, it's only right they bring in Ghostface Killah. And the two of them recount specific events they witnessed in their lives where they saw the aspect of karma play out. Similar to Can It Be All So Simple, this track is more down to earth and shows listeners that the Wu can get deep when they want to. And that this entire album isn't just rugged raps and braggadocio, you know, because just like Kung Fu movies, the lessons in those movies often don't come from the fights themselves, but the stuff that happens behind the scenes. You know, Kung Fu ends up being a bigger metaphor for life. And I think in the same way, the Wu-Tang Clan showed that through their raps. So in verse 1, RZA reflects how he used to laugh with his younger brother, seemingly specifically laughing, reflecting how RZA beat up this particular guy until one day his brother was actually murdered outside. And this is specific because it leads right into the chorus that simply says, after laughter comes tears. And RZA's verse is very passionate as he deals with that grief, and you can even hear his pain as he raps his verse. It allows RZA to express at the end of his verse these lines. Memories in the corner of my mind, flashbacks of us laughing all the time. I taught him all about the bees and the birds, but I wish I had a chance to sing these 3 words, which of course we can presume those 3 words are I love you. So definitely a more heartfelt verse from RZA before getting into Ghostface Killah's, whose verse is more around the theme of karma, as he details a situation where a close friend actually liked to be with a lot of women, even laughing like what he was doing had no consequences until he eventually got diagnosed with HIV and the doctors gave him 2 years to live. But he carried on with the same old stuff. With Stephanie, like a whammy, he pressed his luck. Mo tried to be down with OPP. Ain't nothing wrong, but he got caught with the HIV. Now no life to live, Doc says 2 more years. So after the laughter, I guess comes the tears. Right, so Ghostface literally looks at him and says, man, you was laughing, but now here comes the tears, you know? And again, it perfectly lines up with the chorus of after laughter comes tears. And honestly, you know, I know this song came out before then, but this verse actually reminded me of TLC's Waterfalls, where T-Boz had a very similar verse with the same subject on that song, right? And it's unfortunate that whether serious or not so much, you know, we as humans have to learn the hard way sometimes. But it makes it even more imperative that we don't become so stuck in our ways that we are opposed to doing better. So as you can imagine, you know, this is a song that it doesn't get as much hype compared to the bigger ones on the album, but real ones, no. You know, you see a lot of comments on this song. Some people saying, oh, this is the Wu-Tang's best song, or this is the best song on the album, you know, because it just has those universal themes and that content and just that down to earth, you know, those down to earth subject matters. You know, I can always appreciate when MCs give listeners a call to action, or can give listeners, again, those more down to earth, relatable human emotion stories and content. And, you know, RZA and Ghost do an excellent job on this song. Again, probably sitting just outside my top 3 if I had to redo it. Not quite all the way in there, but definitely due to its genuine nature, definitely one that I would reconsider throwing in there. And as I said before, this is actually technically the last song on the album, because for track number 12, Wu-Tang 7th Chamber Part 2, this is simply the same song heard in track number 4, 7th Chamber, right? But the intro stems from Clan in the front, and it kind of features an outro with an interview clip asking, like, how would they describe their style, before being interrupted with more audio from Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang that says, it's a secret. Never teach the Wu-Tang. You know, so definitely a full circle ending to the album, given how it started with the similar audio from the same movie in track 1, Bring the Ruckus. And then with that, man, we've officially made it to the end of this album review. Woo, an hour and 40 right now. Man, I won't lie. You know, it was a bit, you know, it can be a little rough getting back on the saddle, doing a full album review. Like I said, it takes a lot of time to prepare. You can see it. It takes a lot of time to record. It takes a lot of time to prepare. You know, I really try to put my heart and soul, but at the same time, keep it a little concise and digestible enough for you. You know, but I'm so glad that I was finally able to have some time and, you know, give this classic album its proper shine on H2DG. You know, I don't know if I said it before, but, you know, this was one of, if not the first universally recognized classic hip hop album that I listened to straight through. I remember listening to it in college and being interrupted because I had to go to class. And all I could think about was, I can't wait till this class is over so I can continue Enter the Wu-Tang. You know, it's certainly a fun listen and one that really helps you appreciate the uniqueness of the Wu-Tang Clan. You know, honestly, I probably could have went even deeper with some of the songs or punchlines or rhyme schemes. But, you know, I'll leave you to show some love to those in the comments. You know, but doing an album review that features the styles of 9 different MCs and trying to still keep it fairly digestible and concise, like I said, that's definitely a challenge. But, you know, I do hope that the H2DG version of Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, that album review taught you something new, offered a different perspective, or even inspired you in some way, shape, or form. As always, I genuinely hope you give this album a listen, whether it's for the first time or the 1,000,000th time. I hope that I was able to help you, or even, you know, prepare you to be able to look past the surface level rugged raps and peep the deeper themes of brotherhood, you know, discipline, honor, confidence, knowledge, right, that exist within these songs. I certainly appreciate you giving this review of all the ones that are likely out there for this album a listen, and, you know, taking the time out your day to hear my thoughts on some of hip hop's finest work. A lot of time and work, you know, goes into these episodes, and especially, you know, album reviews. So Please, I encourage you to share any and all thoughts or even just constructive criticism with your boy, as I'm always around for further discussion on Twitter or IG at Desmond Powell _ or of course at Hip to the Games. If you want to talk some more, I always leave that door open. But here's to another reflection of the God-gifted brilliance of hip-hop's past. Shout out to the RZA, Jizza, ODB, Inspector Deck, Raekwon, the Chef, Ghostface Killer, the Method Man, You God, and Master Killer for trusting themselves and bringing their unique skills and gifts to the table to form an iconic supergroup that will never be duplicated, kicking down the door with the debut album that, truly shook and to this day shakes the hip-hop world, inspiring us all to embrace our inner kung fu master, you know what I'm saying? And of course, here's a huge shout out to you for being hip to the games, and I thank you so much for sticking around for another episode, all for the love of the best combo there is. Peace out. And God bless. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Hip to the Games, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit up the socials at Desmond Powell _ and at Hip to the Games on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok so you don't miss out on the fun. And please follow or subscribe to the show and leave a review on the podcast platform you're on right now, as your support is greatly appreciated.